5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The only thing we have to fear is spirit.
Mile 18.
This is Endurance Nation.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Endurance Nation podcast. I'm Coach Patrick, your host on these different episodes that cover interviews with our members and with industry leaders, as well as regular topics that are pertinent to endurance athlete success. This time around, it's getting close to the fall, and I wanted to let you know that our season is kicking off on November 1st. That's right. Endurance Nation works through seasons, and our winter training program kicks off in earnest on November 1st. If you head over to endurancenation.us, you'll be able to enter your email address to get all the details about what's coming up and learn why starting in November is super important and how we can work with you over the course of the winter using our patented out-season program and the subsequent training phases of the year to create the conditions and knowledge you need to be your better and faster self. And if you're ready to get started early, can't wait till November 1st, we have a durability program for you too. So once again, head over to endurancenation.us, enter that email, learn more about what we are doing here over the course of the year, why Endurance Nation is different, why training with a team is the way to go, and how we can help make you successful. Until then, I look forward to hearing from you online somewhere, and sit back here now and enjoy this episode.
Endurance Nation.
Hey there, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation, back with another weekly video cast podcast. My opportunity to sit down with you and make you a little bit smarter. Definitely smarter than I am this morning, good heavens, and help you become a better athlete by being a little more diligent, a little more thoughtful about the training you're doing, how you're organizing the training, how you're stacking it, and how you're making it work to your advantage. Good workouts, good progress isn't simply about more time. It isn't simply about more effort, more watts. It isn't simply about more distance. It's about doing it in a better manner across the board. So whether it's executing a session, executing a main set, executing a week, a month, or playing your season, all those elements go into becoming smarter. And we're going to talk a little bit about one of our favorite disciplines today, open water swimming. So in today's cast, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some key elements around open water swimming that you want to think about to make yourself a better open water swimmer. What's been interesting over the past few years, COVID and everything that's been happening with that, with fewer races, there's been less reasons for the majority of triathletes to be in open water. I myself, obviously here, those of you watching the video here, available on YouTube, I'm risking life and limb by doing this entire screencast apparently underwater. I do not have gills, but just for special effects, I thought this would be a great one. I love this view for the bubbles. I think a lot about the bubbles coming off my hand when I reach out under the water. And if you're swimming in nice open water, you can actually see those bubbles. Not so nice open water, can't see anything past like your elbow, which is kind of freaky for sure. But that said, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of these open water tips. Like with the pandemic and everything, a lot of people just haven't been swimming outside. And we've lost the skill set related to open water swimming and effective open water swimming. Like the more you do it, like anything else, like using chopsticks or writing in cursive, the more you do it, the better you get at it. But if you're not doing it, you're not going to get better at it. So one of the ways I'm hoping to accelerate your re-entry to open water swimming and high quality open water swimming is today's cast, right? So I have 6 topics to talk about today. It's a lot, but I'm going to get through them quickly. So stay tuned with me. Number one, first and foremost, sort of like number 0, really, because it doesn't count as much as one of the tips, but it is super important. Safety first. So when we get into open water swimming, don't cut corners, even though it's been a while, even if maybe your typical friends that you swim with or outside with are not swimming, we want to make sure that you're completely safe. We think about safety in 3 aspects. We think about it, location, company, and visibility. So location, make sure you're swimming in a place that's not only safe, like from a water quality standpoint, which can be hard in these hotter temperatures, but also just for currents and motor boats and other elements of the watercraft that are out there. Make sure it's a safe place to swim. Okay. Number 2, company. Who are you swimming with? Ideally, you are swimming with someone else, or someone's on a paddleboard, or someone's in a boat. But there's someone else there with you who's keeping an eye on you, making sure that you're swimming and you're swimming okay, everything's all right. You never want to swim alone in open water. Okay. And then number 3, visibility. So how easy it is to see you. So definitely, even though it's hot, wear that swim cap, get something super bright, whether it's Endurance Nation red like this, or pink or neon if you've got an old race cap saved or something like that. But definitely want to make sure that you've got everything you need to have it yourself as visible as possible to everybody, whether it's someone from the shore, or someone else in a boat, or someone else on the water right now. We want them to know that you are there and you are swimming. Okay, it definitely can be hard with the glare and other items, especially at the speeds with which you'll be swimming soon after this cast. All right, so let's dive into these actual tips so we have them. So number 1, the first thing you want to do when you get to open water relative to the swimming you've been doing in the pool is get accustomed to your body position. And this varies, right? If you're swimming in a wetsuit or you're swimming in a Swimskin, there's going to be a definite delta versus what you were doing swimming in a pool, right? In both cases, snugger setup. And for me, I really like it. I feel like I'm much more in touch with my form when I'm in like a wetsuit or a skin suit relative to just swimming in a pool. That said, there's differences in terms of wetsuit and buoyancy versus skin suit. So skin suit keeps everything snug, really no buoyancy whatsoever. And so there's different work you need to do to achieve your balance. Whereas when you're in a wetsuit, you can literally just, take a breath, lay down on the water, and for the most part, you'll be on top of the water. All right, so it's just sort of important for you to know that as we go through the process of swimming well, a lot of it is just orientation, right? So get in the water and see what it is. If you're on that wetsuit, I recommend that lay down drill. Just get used to yourself being on top of the water. Like literally, don't just start swimming by like diving in and swimming, but like literally lay down on top of the water and then start swimming so you kind of understand where you're resetting from. Those of you who are in a swimskin or just swimming in a swimsuit, you're going to have lower hips relative to your torso. So you've really got to work on a tight core, really getting your head underwater when you're not swimming in a wetsuit, and really reaching out down under the water. So if it's 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock are the horizontal lines on a clock, when you're not swimming in a wetsuit, we want to be reaching down from to 8 or to 4 o'clock to really get the shoulder down, get the rotation down, and just by definition, keep those hips up. Super important. Okay, so body position orientation, number 1. Second tip for you, upping the cadence. Open water swimming is not clean like a pool, right? There's no lane lines. It's rough. There's disruptions in general, similar to like riding indoors on your trainer or riding outside. Indoors, perfect environment. You can do like just the right number you want. Outside, there's terrain, there's wind, there's cars, there's potholes, all sorts of variables that go into making that ride different. Typically, we see higher watts outside than we see inside just by virtue of the different conditions and how you dynamically work inside that environment. You're making that same transition when you move to open water swimming. There's wind now, there's sun, there's other obstacles, there's things you can hear, there's other people hopefully swimming near you and so on. And with all of that in place, it's much harder to swim well. And we really lose the ability to take advantage of the glide. Like perfect conditions, you can glide and like really fly. That's great. I tell people that's kind of like when you were a kid and you had a sled, swimming inside is like the perfect pack of snow that allows your sled to like run down that hill and go those extra couple feet further than your friends, right? When we're swimming in open water, that sled has no run. It doesn't, you put it in and you're like, oh my God, like the sun is out, other kids are here, all these other variables, it's changed the sledding conditions, not so fun anymore. And so really we can't get away with that picture perfect form in open water. In fact, typically open water swimming is best done with a higher cadence. And by that, I mean no interruptions. Like your fingertips should always be moving, right? Reaching out in the water, the minute you get to full extension, those fingertips are going down and they're already starting to set the catch and already pushing back. And they come out of the finish and they're already going back around again. So what you'll typically see with open water swimming is much more of a straighter arm style because they're really getting that arm back out again in front and less of that sort of picture perfect high elbow recovery back, which is very indicative of the pool. Some great swimmers can do both in both conditions, but for most of us, a higher cadence means fingertips never stop moving. We break that wrist early in a little bit of a straighter arm recovery. So you'll find yourself kind of coming around a little more around the side, which kind of leads itself to a little more sort of rotational momentum here inside the torso as well. Okay. Third main point here is the perfect backstroke. And no, I'm not talking about backstroking, although some of you, myself included, have probably done backstroke during an open water swim, which is fine, especially if you get that nifty trick down where you're swimming freestyle and you reach out and then just kind of keep reaching out and just roll over on your back and swim backstroke. Some people will do that to turn faster around a buoy, which looks cool if you can pull it off. I'm not so cool like that. When I say perfect backstroke, I mean the perfect back half of your stroke. So if we work from end to end here, I'll use my video screen as an example. typically on the front end, we have this, the reach, breaking the wrist, and this great catch, the anchor on the water. And then through the body of the stroke, we're pulling on that water, and then we're holding onto the finish. When we're swimming in open water, because we have a higher cadence and the water is already disturbed, and theoretically there'll be other people and other things going on around you, we don't have that perfect reach out and glide. In fact, it's often you're hitting someone else, or your fingers or your hands, or you're landing on someone else. Catching is not our strength inside open water. Yes, you can work on it. Yes, we want to have some flavor of a catch for sure. But in reality, the second half of your stroke is where a lot of your speed is maintained. Not created per se, like on the front, but where it's maintained. So we want those good solid strokes to the body of the stroke pattern, but we also want to hold that water to the back. And that literally means, like, as you're breaking your wrist going back, we're literally keeping that wrist back so we can go ahead and keep that tension on the back of the water till your thumb hits your thigh and bring it out around again. So really holding on to that. So whatever we do have the option to hold on to, make sure we can hold on to that water and keep yourself up. So don't stress out so much about the perfect catch because all these people around you. Perfect catches aren't really possible in open water, but we can have good rotation, good momentum, and we can have a certainly good back half of the stroke. No one else is really right inside that space, right along the side of your body or underneath your body. And that's clean water for you to work with to keep your stroke rate going and keep the tension on the water so your speed doesn't lag. Okay. All right. Number 4 here, hack your directional challenges. And this is what people typically notice. So we go into the water, we're like, so I'm going to swim with my friends. This is great. And then you get in the water and you're like, oh my God, I have to breathe. I have all this other stuff going on. Like, forget about my friends. I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. And you do that. And then the next thing you do, you look up and you're like pointed right back where you started from. And you're like, oh my God, forget about the technique side and forget about my friends. I don't even go in a straight line. Like, now I got to work on this, right? And so the priorities change drastically as we swim. But it is important for us to address some of this directional challenge issue, simply because if we can get that locked in or 90 or 95% locked in, then you can get back to the business of swimming with others and focusing on technique. And so what I usually tell people to do is dedicate some time at the beginning of your first open water swim or your next open water swim. Get in the water and, look ahead before you start swimming. Look ahead, identify the item that you want to swim towards, and then start swimming, right? So start swimming towards that item, whatever it is on the distant shore, tree, whatever, hopefully an immovable object. Don't pick things that move. And then swim and do your normal breathing. I would recommend like 2 count or 4 count, whatever you normally do for your swim stroke when you're swimming for your event. Do that pattern for breathing and do 10 or 20 strokes. So maybe there's 10 breathing cycles or 5 breathing cycles if it's 4 count breathing, whatever it is. So take all those strokes and then stop and look up and see where you're at. And you'll be like, oh, I started out pointed directly at this, and now I'm pointed, over to the left by so many degrees or over to the right. So reorient yourself again and then swim again and do it again. We want to do 2 or 3 of these just to make sure that, yes, you are consistently always going one way versus the other. Once we know your tendency for which direction you want to go, we can start addressing it. Right? And the simplest way to address it is where do we put our hand placement in and how often we put our hand placement in dynamically. And by that, I mean, normally when we swim, our hand enters in front of our shoulder and we're reaching out under the water. But if I'm normally going to my left-hand side, for example, then what I'll do with my right hand is every 3rd stroke, every 4th stroke, whatever it is, I won't put my hand in front of my shoulder. I'll be lazy and I'll put my hand a little further out. Instead of 12 o'clock on the dial, I'll put it at like 1 o'clock or sometimes even 2 o'clock. If it's really bad, I might even turn my hand so it's facing in as opposed to my normal swim stroke where it's kind of facing out a little bit. And what that does is, on a very small scale, every couple strokes, it's just going to kind of nudge you back. And if you figure out the cadence of that adjustment with that hand entry placement, what it'll effectively do is, if you know every 3rd stroke or every time after you breathe, that next stroke you reach out, whatever that timing is for you, you'll be able to swim straight because you have a great rhythm and you know what it is, right? So we can test that and practice it. So really kind of nail that down. So again, 2 or 3 times, no sighting, just swim, reorient, and decide how badly you go one way or the other. And then we make the adjustment with our hand entry placement by, instead of going in front of the shoulder, just a little bit out, and that acts as a rudder. Remember, you're front wheel drive, so we just kind of do a little rudder action here and we're good. Sometimes people will just swim until they're all lost and they stop, look up, see where they are, turn themselves in the water and swim again. They're not fixing the issue of turning. And so no matter where they orient themselves, they're always going to turn away from it. And stopping and restarting that body position stuff is super costly, right? Okay. That's my favorite tip of all. And then the last but not least piece is become a close swimmer. know if you all love that Seinfeld episode with the close talker, one of my personal favorites. But becoming a close swimmer is important. So if you are swimming with someone else, just for safety purposes, hopefully, get used to swimming next to them, like swim right on their feet. Most people are comfortable with you swimming right on their feet. In an ideal drafting scenario, you're not right behind someone. You're actually sort of off their hip there, right? So you'd be reaching in and maybe you'll hit hands as they're finishing through, but you're inside their wake. You want to be able to swim on the left side of someone, on the right side of someone, be able to keep them in reference as you swim and be able to follow them as you go. So don't worry so much about the sighting. The front person needs to worry about sighting. Your job is to just stay close and not lose contact with that person. Their job is to not swim too fast and to also not go crazy with the directional pieces. But what we're trying to do here is to have you get used to having other people around you, being able to be aware of other people under the water without disrupting your stroke. Be okay with getting bumped and understand that it's just an intermittent thing and you can keep going and don't let it stop you. One of the biggest challenges of the race day is that people get into the open water and then there's all these folks and there's a lot of jostling and everything and people are instantly outside of their comfort zone, rightly so, and you're unable to swim. And you can take advantage of that by structuring your open water swimming accordingly to get those things nailed down. All right, so here we go real quickly. Just to recap, always safety first, good location, swim with company, and have great visibility. And our 5 points: nail down that body position, wetsuit or swimskin, and determine what it is you need to address it. Plan on having the cadence be a little bit higher, not insane, but a little bit higher. So we remove all pauses inside your stroke. Number 3, we are doing the perfect backstroke. Second half of the stroke, we're going to really focus on holding that water all the way through to the thigh so we keep our directional speed up. And then we have our directional challenges. We're going to solve that. Whichever tendency you sort of have, let's fix that here early in the season to make sure that we know what the cadence is for that hand placement. And then last but not least, become a close swimmer. Swim with others, spend time in the water like that. It ends up being kind of fun. You can have people be a little crazy. You can have multiple people. You can swim between 2 people. Like, just get used to having bodies around you and normalize that experience so you'll be ready to go into the next race knowing that you can maintain your stroke, that you'll be on course, and you're very comfortable with the contact so you have a great swim. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Coach Patrick signing off from another weekly cast. I'll be back next week with another topic. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, stay cool. Maybe a little open water swimming isn't such a bad idea after all. Take care, everybody.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.